Hi guys, welcome back to
All right.
and one more thing before you die. I'm your host, Joanna,
And I'm Marc.
and we have a guest today. Megan, introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Megan. Thanks for having me.
So we watched Ginger Snaps Unleashed, which I called Ginger Snaps again. um,
With a question mark. Yeah.
with a question mark. I thought it was interesting that this was called Ginger Snaps Unleashed as opposed to like Bridget Snaps or something along those lines, because this is
Yeah.
no longer about ginger snapping.
Yeah. It was completely, there was like, not to like ruin the movie already or spoil it, but there was absolutely no Ginger. Ginger literally was like a fly on the wall, like
Absolutely.
5 minutes or less. I was
Yeah.
really disappointed. I thought she'd make like a comeback or something.
Revive.
Revive, yeah.
Yeah, did not happen. So this was made in 2004 and it was directed by Brett Sullivan, which I believe is the same one that did the first movie. Let me look that up actually. But while I look that up, Ginger Snaps, the first movie, has actually they're different directors, so my bad on that. Says a lot actually. But they have very similar Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb ratings. What do you guys feel about that?
I think they're deserved.
I definitely don't think that the films are equal quality, I'll say, or
Yeah.
equally thought out. So for them to have the same rating is a little surprising to me.
Yeah, so it's like a 2% difference, which is crazy. I definitely don't think this one was nearly as good as the first one.
This one also felt like a lot cheaper than the
Oh
first.
yeah.
Like you barely see any of the werewolf. It's always like in or something like that. I don't know. They didn't have
Oh
enough
my
money
God.
to have more scenes with it or something.
Yeah, there's one scene that I cannot wait to talk about because I laughed so hard. I want to know your guys' ratings.
I'll let Megan go first because she's the special guest.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Standing on its own, if I hadn't watched Ginger Snaps, the original, which I did, if it was a standalone film, I would give it probably like a 4. But I'm a harsh critic, and compared to the first one, since it's like a series going along with the story, I'd bump it up to probably a 6 or a 7.
That
Are
is
we doing
so
this
generous.
out of
What?
10?
Yes,
You
we are
guys
doing it out of 10.
Okay.
I feel like that is so generous.
Yeah,
I'm trying to be generous.
Okay,
that had me
fair.
shook.
What
Mark.
about you, Mark?
I don't know. I'd probably go with like a 3 or a 4. Like I
Okay.
really like the beginning and how they started out because based off like the end of the first one,
hmm
she killed her sister and like there's really no way you can go back home. So I kind of like what they did at the beginning here, but then like after shortly really like fell apart and like everything just kind of didn't make sense. It seemed like some of the actresses like tried way too hard to be like quirky,
Uh-huh.
like what Ghost.
Oh my God.
Ghost reminded me of that one girl from Harry Potter. Like the same, she also had white hair and she had like those weird glasses. And like if you put on the glasses, you could see dead things. Like she gave me heavy vibes with those girl.
Oh God.
I could see that for sure. You're talking about what's her name? Luna Lovegood, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that.
Okay, so this is the part where I give my rating, and it's not going to be nearly as nice. I told you guys today, actually, I texted you guys saying that this movie took me 2 days to finish because I was so bored that I could not finish it. So I left like 15 minutes for the next day. I watched those last 15 minutes the next day. I'm giving this movie 2 stars out of 10, and I think I'm being so nice. And I think you guys are being even nicer than me. I don't think there's anything in this movie that makes me
I
go,
really don't blame you for
it's
giving that
memorable.
rating.
Yeah, there's a lot of issues in this movie that make zero sense, especially if you refer back to the first movie. So if I watch this without having watched the first movie, sure. Having watched the first movie, this makes zero sense. And I'll go into that like a little bit later, especially with there being a wolf, because the main wolf in the first movie was killed and then Ginger was killed. So where does this other wolf come from? I don't know. Anyway, before we start, I do want to say there is just so many trigger warnings in this movie, but specifically for self-harm. So if you are meaning to watch this movie, it might not be for you. I think
Adding on to that, not only is it self-harm, it's substance abuse and
right.
sexual harassment. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, it's
crazy.
everything.
They touched on every
They
point.
really do. And it gets like they try to do like comedic relief points and they're not funny. They like make me feel so uncomfortable, and we'll get into that. Yeah, there's a lot of harsh topics in this movie, and they don't play nice. So if that's not for you, don't watch it. I don't think any of us recommend this movie either way, do we?
No.
No.
Exactly.
Just watch the first one. Just watch
Just
the
watch
first
the
one. You'll
first
be happy.
one, or listen to our podcast episode on it, and then listen to this one because you're not going to watch it anyway. So just listen to it. It's fun. So yeah, so there's trigger warnings even on the things that we're gonna touch. So the first montage, these movies start off with a montage, and I think it's great. I don't think I've ever seen something like this before. And the first montage is Bridget shaving herself,
Mhm.
which quickly turns into just blood and self-harm.
Yeah, but she's doing it for a reason though. So it's like they started off and it's like really gruesome. Like I had to look away for most of the time because they show everything
Mhm.
just like in the first one. But then she's doing it because she in the end of the first movie got herself infected.
Right.
So now she's testing how long it takes for her to heal herself
Mhm.
so that she can kind of gauge when she's gonna turn and like when she has to run. And that leads like into another point which doesn't make sense. After she gets out of the shower, she's already like gone away from home. She's like at a motel. She's bouncing from place to place while like the thing or it another werewolf like out of nowhere, like we have never heard of this werewolf, just is
Mhm.
like trying to hunt her down. Also, one thing, like every guy in this movie is like a literal horn dog. Like
They're
I was just
bad.
laughing when in like the library, the guy was like super cocky and stuff like that. Like, oh, I know why you go here. I was like, bruh. I was,
There is not a single good male character in these movies. So
I
yeah,
would
it's
yeah.
only
say
those two. It's only that librarian guy and then crap, what's his name?
Tyler?
Tyler, yeah, and Tyler.
for both of the movies, when was the first one made? Like 2000?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one was made in 2004. I feel like it's just because maybe stuff like that was just a little more like normal back then. People thought it was like funny. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
it's
just
definitely
Yeah.
with the times change. People have different tastes. But even
Uh,
still, like I think the point was just to have him be kind of like a creep. Like this guy's like so full of himself and stuff like that, which is kind of funny in itself, I guess. Yeah.
yeah, it's just a little weird to make every single male character. Like it's not like just like a one, it's all of them. So
Besides the trucker dude, right? Or like the garage guy, he like helped them out.
yeah, okay, true.
the whole first scene basically. Bridget goes to check out books from the library on bloodletting and other stuff about like blood toxicity. But when she goes to check out her books, there's a fee due. So she just walks away because the
love that part.
librarian guy is like, well, you need to pay if you want to rent these books after
Uh-huh.
being creepy. So he shows up at her motel room and is like, I'm not really supposed to do this, but I followed you like where you live and I have the books you wanted.
Yeah.
Like he obviously thought there was something in it for him doing that.
Oh, absolutely. He's a little creep. And then he sees that she's been injecting herself with something, which we get like a preview of that. She's injecting herself with wolfsbane, which is what she believed to be the cure in the last movie. But she's hyperventilating. She is not reacting well to it. So he attempts to get her in his car to get her help. But then that doesn't go well for him. He gets absolutely
He gets
mauled
snatched.
by the new wolf. Who
Yeah,
knows
there's a
where that
new
came
wolf
from.
in town.
The
And-
new wolf in town.
Can I just say one thing? It made absolutely no sense. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just like being anal about it, but whenever the dude got killed and she went running away and she like passed out because of her oh, I guess you can call it an overdose. Did the wolf not have time to literally like run one
After
minute
her.
to get her and get her?
Yeah.
She was
Yeah,
for like probably a
because the
couple of
whole thing
minutes,
is
like at
that-
least 20 to 30 minutes before somebody else found her. And the wolf had like no idea. That's like your main objective, wolf.
Wolf.
Yeah. I don't know. You should give it a name or something like that.
Yeah, we should give him a name. Are we voting on something?
Werewolf? I don't know.
Werewolf. So then she passes out and she wakes up in like a hospital asylum situation where they tell her that she basically is tripping. She didn't see librarian die. He didn't die. I don't know
Apparently
how.
they didn't find her next to a dead body.
Yeah, they didn't find him at all. So they're like, no, you just bled out. So apparently the blood that she was seeing was her own. I don't know if that's we never get like told if that's actually real, if she was tripping, if she wasn't. He apparently didn't die. And she does not like being tied down to this hospital because they're taking away her wolfsbane, and she really believes that that's helping her. So she tries to escape, and then that's where we meet creepy Tyler for the first time, which I didn't think he was going to become like this main character, but
we meet Alice, which is the rehab clinic's director.
Yeah.
And like my first impression was that like she was going to be an ally. She like sends Bridget to like solitary confinement or something.
She says that everybody's gonna die.
Oh yeah.
Like out of context because she can't tell that she's a werewolf or gonna turn into a werewolf.
Yeah, so as you'd expect, the director decides to like immediately lock her up because apparently they don't take threats like that.
Immediately no. But I just love that Alice is super condescending too. Something about her character made me feel so uneasy. Like there's nothing worse than, even if she was, let's say, somebody who was a drug addict, Alice was so condescending and being like, oh no, you're not seeing these things. Like,
but I feel like that's coming from a place of like experience, because she's probably dealt with these types of girls. Well, she doesn't know what she has, but she's dealing with, you know, different problems. So it's kind of her way of getting into them, or maybe that's something that works for her. But I think, you know, you kind of have to be more straight up than like, or like sugarcoat it when you're like in that type of situation as like all those girls were. So I kind of get where she was coming from and being kind of, you know, like off-putting or rude or something, or condescending.
Well, she mentions that she's basically tried every drug under the sun, and she doesn't know what, well, Bridget's found with her entire set of wolfsbane like vials. She's brought to the clinic with them, which I just realized is kind of strange for them to like, why would they bring the vials with her to a rehab clinic? Anyway, so Alice like admits she doesn't know what Bridget is like shooting up with, and she asks Bridget what it is. The problem is that Tyler, who's the worker at the clinic we've been talking about, he uses Bridget's stash as a vehicle for like sexual favors. So now he's using her addiction against her, but that kind of comes in later.
I just think personally, I think Alex being rude and stuff, all that, like if that works, that works. But we can see that everybody in that asylum is not working. So then Bridget is forced into group therapy, which is probably one of the most insane scenes that we get. And everyone there is just so mean, so mean. So they introduce Bridget, and one of the girls says that there's a room full of people who really think she sucks at suicide. That is a literal quote.
I laughed at that. That was pretty funny.
I was in shock. Like I didn't know if I should laugh or cry because wow.
Well, the thing is, they don't know prior to being captured by the rehab police. She's like cutting herself in her bathroom in this motel and noting the rate of transformation, because apparently, you know, the farther into your transformation to a werewolf, you gain a better ability to heal wounds on yourself. She's been cutting herself and tracking how long it takes for the cuts to heal. What is it, to like adjust her like wolfsbane intake? So the thing the girl said like doesn't even really apply. Like technically she wasn't even trying to kill herself. Little do they know she's a werewolf.
Yeah, it's just so funny how like she just out of nowhere starts judging her. But then Bridget starts explaining her situation. She's like talking about how there's a werewolf hunting her, and that she's trying to intake a wolfsbane in order to heal herself. And the therapist running this session literally writes down lesbian.
Like her only note.
I laughed so hard. I don't know if that was their attempt at comedy or what.
That was definitely like, I don't know.
It's so random though.
You can tell like in that little AA circle they have going on, they're like playing all the stereotypes. Each girl is a different stereotype. So there's we're introduced to some of the girls that are at this rehab facility. What were you going to say? I know who you're going to talk about.
The girl crying.
The girl crying. There's some were like really like sensitive, and the others were just like super numb to everything, like not paying attention, not caring. And then there was like the popular one. Beth Ann.
Beth Ann. I thought the one crying was the only normal one. Like she was writing her feelings down. She was talking about them and like actually trying to get better. Everybody else was just like, this place sucks, and trying to like project their own things on everybody else. she keeps trying to experiment on herself. I wrote experiment so that I didn't have to, I don't know, I wanted to put it in like nicer terms. She tries to experiment on herself to see how fast she's healing. And she keeps seeing visions of her sister Ginger, who is basically being such a Debbie Downer. Like she's trying to tell her the truth, yes, but she's also like the worst vision ever. She just keeps telling her it's not working. It's only getting worse. And pretty soon you're not going to be able to control yourself. But basically, we get introduced to Ghost as well, who is this younger girl who is in the asylum kind of like helping out because her grandma was
A burn victim,
a burn victim and she's just like completely like in a cast.
That was really, really like, well, it wasn't like creepy, but like you could tell kind of like everything was off just
Very
from like
unsettling.
a little girl.
Yeah.
And she always spoke very cryptically. Like you could understand what she was saying, but she didn't have to say it that way. And she talked in the third person a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it kind of gave me those vibes of that Harry Potter girl too.
Yeah, I thought Ghost was just like mentally affected by her grandma. So that's why she talked in like third person, blah, blah, blah. But we find out that's not it.
She speaks in like poetry or something.
Yeah, and poems.
It's so strange.
Yeah, she's like writing her own story. It's very weird.
She's like oddly cryptic for a young girl her age.
Yeah.
And like I'm just like, okay, well that's how her trauma is showing from her grandma being burned. I don't know. I was like making excuses for
me
her.
Too. Trust me too. But then she finds out that Bridget is injecting herself with Wolfsbane, and she so happens to know exactly what that is. And she's like, what, 12?
Well, aren't the nurses sitting around trying to figure out what it is? Like there's a scene where they're all sitting around and does Ghost mention? I don't remember. All I remember
she sees them and she like realizes that that's what Bridget is injecting herself with, and she automatically goes to her stash of comics, which I don't know why
an encyclopedia, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah. She just happens to have the perfect comic for that. And so it tells her that Wolfsbane is used to cure werewolves. And in that scene, I knew something was off because her grandma is trying to like press the button for like a nurse to come, and she just pushes her grandma away. She's like, "No, you're not doing that." Did you guys notice that?
She like rolled her eyes too, which I was like, she's like a burn victim, but she knows there's like a camera there. It'd be like
she is
rolling her eyes.
Not happy with her granddaughter, to say the least. My next note was creepy nurse alert. There is always a creepy dude in these movies. So we get introduced to Tyler more. He offers to give Bridget Wolfsbane if he gets to decide where he injects it. And obviously he has to tell her he wants her to pull her pants down, which she denies. This scene made me want to like throw up. And he's like, I want to make sure that we all had this thought. Is he not older than every single girl in that asylum?
Yeah, he's like late 20s, like mid to late 20s, I'd say.
Yeah, and I'd say everyone but Bridget is like in their teens. Like Bridget is the oldest girl in there.
Yeah, it's an abuse of power coming from his age and his job.
Right.
He's combining the two to manipulate not only Bridget but other girls in this clinic.
So she denies it because she's not doing that.
And which is like super fucked up too, like if you think about it, because it's like the whole point is trying to get out, but you keep feeding them their addiction and they spend more money, and it just turns into this whole other fucked up thing. Like if you get it deep into it, it's really messed up.
Yes, they never get to get out because of him, essentially. So then she loses her mind at one of the hospital girls because she's blocking the TV that she's trying to watch. And this is where we see that Bridget is starting to like lose her control on the werewolf situation.
She's becoming a lot more violent, and things are tempting her a lot more.
Yeah. And then Ghost ends up going to her hospital room, and she notices that Bridget is growing an ear, and Bridget loses it and cuts her ear off, which is, I'm assuming, like a callback to when Ginger cut her tail off. I think.
Actually, I don't remember that.
You don't remember her trying to cut her tail off?
Did she?
Yes.
Maybe I was looking away. And I wasn't sure what was going on.
The tail visual is like burned in my brain.
Yeah. Dude, I'm so glad they didn't do that again. It's so bad. And so Ghost goes wandering around at night, and she finds Tyler basically taking advantage of one of the other girls. I'm not going to go into extreme detail on what he does, but he gets a favor in exchange of giving that girl her
drug of choice.
Yeah,
which he just so happens to have everyone's drug of choice.
Because he's a nurse there. So I don't know why they're keeping drugs there, by the way.
Why are they keeping
Right.
them? What's the point of keeping them? Like,
yeah, I don't know what kind of situation
unless
it
he's
is.
responsible for that job and he's just putting them somewhere else where he can use it, for his games later on. So
Yes, I don't
but that's
know.
like a reach. That's reaching.
I know they never really explain where the drugs are coming from, just that he has them apparently. So Ghost finds the Wolfbane stash, which I don't know why they're still keeping it. I guess because they're trying to see what exactly it is that is making Bridget addicted to it. I don't know.
Doesn't she grab it under the building in like a random cabinet?
Yeah. It's like
what?
the part of the building I felt like it was like
sort of
nobody
like
goes there. Yeah. Like, why are they hiding this here? But I'm assuming Tyler was the one who hid it somewhere.
Yeah.
And nobody questions him, I guess. So she tries to take it and give it to Bridget, but before she can give it to Bridget, Tyler essentially corners Bridget and then he pours out the liquid. This is my part. He looks at the mirror, fixes his hair, and says, "Welcome to rehab, baby." I lost it when he did this. Like the way that he was just giving the most TikTok vibes, just looking at himself and going, "Welcome to rehab, baby," and then
At
just
least
left.
the movie did a good job of like making me hate him. So
yeah, true. He's just unreal. Let's say that. This scene, I don't even know if we should talk about. The scene where she goes to yoga therapy that turns out to not be yoga therapy.
yeah,
I can see
got that.
what
Y'all
you
got
think. I can see what you think happened, but I think something different happened.
Okay. Give us your interpretation of what happened.
Okay. Unfortunately, they have this scene where all these, I'm assuming they're older girls playing younger girls to get away with this. But basically, they're having a group sort of yoga meditation session where like every girl in this clinic is here. Like not the normal like 8 characters we've seen. Now there's like 15 or 20 of them.
Yeah.
And they're all like laying in this room on yoga mats. And they're all like, how do I say this PG? Like there's no way.
Yeah. They're all
doing
they're
something
all
touching
inappropriate.
themselves.
Yeah.
I have to say it. What I think happened is Bridget is like laying in this meditation session, but her mind like starts wandering.
Yeah.
Because she's transforming, she's becoming more like sexually aggressive, sort of how Ginger was in the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
And she's imagining that this counselor in the room is like giving them a walkthrough on how to
insane
pleasure themselves. My jaw dropped. I was like, how did they get away with this?
Yeah.
Because obviously these young girls have to be played by older girls, I'm assuming. So in my head, I'm thinking like they got me. I was convinced that this was actually happening
until me too.
They pan to like Bridget starts like screaming at the end of this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really remember why, but she starts screaming. All the girls like jolt out of their meditation vibe to look at her, and they're all super confused. So I'm assuming that Bridget was imagining that the counselor was like giving them a walkthrough when she really wasn't.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. I think
it
your
was her own
is
brain leading her through that.
Yeah, I hope so. Then she like runs to Tyler and begs him to give her Wolfsbane, which he does. I don't necessarily remember if she gave him anything in return. I think he just feels nice. Oh, I remember what it was. So she agreed to the whole pulling her pants down, and he injects her.
Yeah, she decides to play along.
Yeah.
To get what she wants, which is the smart way to do things, I guess.
Yeah, but she's also giving in to him, like, because he injects her in
I mean,
private area.
Who's gonna win in the end? It's like, is it better to have her kill everybody, in the place, like innocent people, or just play into this and possibly escape?
Yeah.
And I think she's so desperate because she knows that, does she?
Yeah. After he injects her with Wolfsbane, Ghost goes outside to check on her dog, which up until now, she would just go feed her dog at night. I didn't even know she had a dog, like, until like he is basically not there anymore. And so we get our first sight of the wolf, which his this like weird looking furry thing is so funny. His eyes are so far apart. I don't know who designed him, but he looks
How can
very
he even
goofy.
see?
I don't
Like,
know.
I don't know.
He's a predator, I guess. And so he dies. Her dog dies.
kills her dog like in the first movie when the wolf is going around and killing all the dogs.
Right. Mhm.
Yeah.
So
So
this
I think
new
it's
wolf,
like an allusion to the first movie there.
right. So this new wolf is like doing the same thing, which is never explained why the wolves eat dogs. It's just, I guess they just eat dogs.
They're just hungry, I guess.
Yeah, they're just hungry.
I mean, anything with red, any meat, I guess.
It goes, yeah. So then Ghost goes to tell Bridget because she knows that Bridget is like part of this. And Ghost is like pretty upset. I guess that was her dog. I would be upset too. And she says, and I quote, Rocky runs, Rocky plays, Rocky misses the good old days. And this is where her like poetry speaking comes in. I thought that was the funniest thing. Because if
And she
my
just,
dog
like-
died, I would
she,
not
like,
be speaking in
Shrugs
tongues.
her shoulders and skips away.
Yeah, I would like,
oh, he's dead, and then like skips away and goes.
but I think it's so funny that she's like still speaking in tongues when her dog literally just died. I guess.
And she brings her dead dog's head to
Yeah.
Bridget in a towel and shows Bridget, which
It's so funny.
was like playing with his ears. I was like, oh my god, you're like supposed to be 12. No
Mhm.
12-year-old girl would be doing this with their dead dog's head. I'm sorry. You have to.
Yeah.
So this is where we find out she's way more demented than your average 12-year-old girl.
Yeah. Yeah, she's really into this, like,
It's the first like concrete detail where you're like, okay,
something's wrong.
scratching your head a little bit.
Yeah. So Bridget tries to escape again because basically Ghost is telling her that she knows exactly how to get her out of this hospital. She escapes through the air vent. I don't even know where to begin with that. I feel like if somebody is in this old asylum air vent, you would hear it. That thing was creaking all over the place. She sees the grandma. The grandma looks at her. Nothing happens there. She's just looking at her. I guess
Yeah.
she
The
watches
grandma
her
was
get
kind of
away.
useless.
Yeah, she's in a cast. I mean, come on. I feel bad for her.
I thought she was gonna like rip out of it and like save the day.
That's
No,
so
no.
funny. And she basically gets out on another side, and I believe it is the mean girl.
Miss
She
Bethan.
Bethan, yeah, sure. She encounters her doing her thing with Tyler, getting her fix, and then Tyler leaves, and essentially this Bethan girl gets absolutely mauled by the wolf. He's back again at night, chose to come back at night. And so Bridget and Ghost encounter the wolf and then manage to escape him, which is crazy. I don't know how many times these girls get to escape this wolf, but he's killing everyone in his way. So I don't know. So then Ghost drives them away. This 12-year-old girl drives. Did nobody else
I
get?
don't know if she's 12, but I was like,
She cannot be older than 14.
well, she definitely cannot be old enough to drive, was what I deducted from that. So she's driving her and Bridget away from the clinic.
Well,
And
I don't
was
even.
gonna add in like, what a weak wolf. You can't get this one, like she's a young girl. Like
I know, because he gets everybody else, but then when it comes to Ghost and
Yeah, full-grown adults.
Bridget.
He snatches them up.
he just can't get to the little girl, I guess.
I guess
So
it wouldn't be a movie if the werewolf had like an inkling of intelligence.
sometimes I wish they would win. You know what I mean? Especially in this movie. God, I wish they would win. So Ghost drives them away, which is insane. She's driving. Bridget doesn't even attempt to drive. She's just, yeah, go for it. Drive me. And they stay at Ghost's grandma's house, which like during this part, Ghost is giving her whole speech about how her grandma died, about how she smoked in the house and then managed to burn down everything.
She gave a horror story at first, which I thought was like, it wasn't really that funny of like a joke that she got like tripped up in a bunch of lights and how she tried to stop, drop, and roll. But as she kept doing that, the lights just kept getting more and more tangled around her body.
I kind of thought it was.
And she was like, "Oh, just kidding, just kidding." I was like, "Okay, that's." I mean, she still got burned. Like she's still in a full body cast. Like it's fucked up either way. But
Yeah, she's a little weird.
That's a bad joke.
Yeah, I definitely would not make a joke about any of my family members if they were in a full body cast. But
Well,
okay.
you're psycho, yeah. You
Yeah.
know she's psycho.
This is where we find out this part just to me made no sense. We find out that the wolf is essentially in love with Bridget because
oh my gosh, I hated this.
I know, yeah, me too. Because when he does try to go after them during the asylum, when they're trying to escape, he goes after them, whatever. He doesn't end up killing Bridget. He just kind of sniffs her, and we're like, okay, weird. I thought it was because he was just like messing with her, but no, he's actually in love with Bridget.
I
So
thought he was like one of us, one of us, and he
exactly.
was like,
I
"Oh,
thought he
we're
was
the same breed."
no, he's in love with her. He wants to mate with her.
I
And
hate that.
so
That is
he
like the
disgusting.
worst.
Literally disgusting. So he brings her a dead deer and she eats it.
She tries.
She tries to eat it. Yeah, absolutely. And then she catches herself and she's like, I should not be doing this. This part is so weird because she kills the deer because the deer is still alive, apparently. And she just like breaks the deer's neck and starts eating it. And then she's like, oh, my bad.
Yeah.
Like, what? Girl, what? How weird. Just at that point, just eat it. Like, you just killed it.
Mhm.
She doesn't.
She wants her humanity.
Yeah, I don't know, which she just lost by like breaking this deer's neck, but okay. And then they call up Tyler, which
Well,
blew my
Bridget
mind.
realizes that the effects of her transformation are progressing
Yeah.
too fast for her to keep up with. I believe Ghost brings with her one vial.
Mm-hmm.
And she doesn't have a syringe, so they
Yeah.
have to use like the eyedropper from a bottle and
Yeah.
absorb it into her membrane or something.
Yeah, through her eye.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because Ghost is like, why don't you just drink it? And she's like, well, that's not gonna work. So without like any other choice, they have to call Tyler, which
To
I'm
get
like,
the
just go
syringe.
break in again. Just
Right?
go break in and get it and leave.
Yeah.
But no, they have to call like the worst guy.
Or she could have put it
ever.
in her nose or something. I don't know. Like
Yeah.
even doing it through the nose is better than calling that creep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they call the creep. They agree to meet with him at a gas station so that they can get more of the monkshood to keep Bridget as human as
Same.
possible.
He says yes so quickly. Like there's nothing in it for him.
Well, we find out that he's got nothing going for him because he got fired from the clinic.
Yeah.
For all the shenanigans they pulled, apparently.
Yeah, but like
you should have been fired a long time
Yeah,
ago, dude.
more than
there's
fired.
No way
You
you're upset.
should have gone to
right
jail.
now.
but it's just weird because there's still nothing technically in it for him. So they try to inject Wolfsbane into her, and for some reason this time she reacts very badly to it. Still don't know why. Was never really explained. She just starts bubbling up. Like her
It was kind of like very graphic and gross.
Yeah.
Like I was covering the screen.
Absolutely. But like why? It's never explained.
Maybe it's really never explained. I thought maybe I missed something.
No, you didn't. Trust me, you did not miss a single thing.
Poor writing? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe she's just, to speculate, maybe she's just like too far along in her transformation. Like
Yeah. I
don't
assumed
know.
that's what it was, and now
Yeah.
she's just reacting very badly to
You
it.
just
but-
can't control anything she's doing anymore. Everything's just out of instinct.
Yeah. But like before that, I wanted to mention that leading up to Tyler arriving and injecting her with Wolfsbane, there's like nothing going on. Like this movie is like 20 minutes of just them in the house doing absolutely nothing. Like they're just talking and they have a sleepover and it's so boring. I was losing my mind. This is when I literally had to leave the rest for the next day because I was just so bored.
I guess the
With
point is
15
to
minutes
show
left.
like the bond between Ghost and
Bridget.
Bridget because Bridget
Yeah.
lost her sister in the
Mhm.
last movie,
Mhm.
which was like a big deal for her. So
Mhm.
now she has a little sister, and Ghost also has always wanted a sister. So I guess the point of that long, grueling, sappy montage where they're just like in the house together is
Mhm.
like to sort of emphasize the sister relationship that they have.
How they're
Yeah.
gonna take over the world and stuff like that.
I just think Ghost, to me personally, is like the most pointless character in this movie. Like I just had no feelings
In-
for her,
Well, we'll get to it in the end, but it seems like she was the whole point of the movie at the end.
which is my this is why I gave it 2
Okay.
stars.
We'll get there.
We will get there.
But their
Um,
relationship like definitely wasn't earned. Not at
Oh,
all.
yeah, not at all. They just
Like,
barely knew each other.
It was really weird because
Ghost is
Bridget,
overbearing.
Yeah,
Ghost is
why do
yeah,
you want to be with
Ghost
her?
is like driving the entire relationship. Bridget could care less. Bridget's
Yeah.
just trying to
That's
get
what
what
I'm
she needs
saying.
and survive. And
And-
Ghost is like, we're gonna
On-
be sisters and rule
Yeah.
the world. Which I
And
guess
she-
is a realistic delusion for a 12-year-old.
Yeah, okay.
but she like
fair.
also she constantly lies to Bridget as well, which like doesn't make sense. She lied about her grandma having the cigarette burn out on her while she fell asleep, but it was actually Ghost who burned her, and how she lied about Tyler raping her And then like,
We haven't gotten there yet.
oh,
It's okay. But let's get to the part where Bridget basically almost eats Tyler, but then contains herself when she sees her sister. I was so excited for her to eat the crap out of him, and she just doesn't. And I was sad. To say the least, I was very sad. It's funny because her sister, even though she is like the villain of the first movie, she definitely tries to warn Bridget in this movie. Tries to tell her, like, to remind her that she's losing control. But then Tyler goes back upstairs because she just denies him. She's like, I need time alone. And Tyler's like, yeah, okay. Which seemed out of character for him. Like, you have been taking advantage of every single person, but as soon as somebody says no, you're like, yeah, okay. So Tyler goes back upstairs where Ghost is. There's so much space in this house, by the way. So many like up.
There's like 4 attics, 3
Yeah.
basements.
Yeah, so much space. And he's there and he's talking about how he wants her back, which, oh, no. I was like, is there a relationship here? Because there cannot be a relationship here, for the love of God. But it is insinuated that they did have a relationship because he's saying that he wants her back. And then we get like a time skip of Bridget going upstairs. And she sees that Ghost is essentially like, she has bruises on her. Don't know how she even got those because it doesn't add up, because she goes back downstairs, Tyler has a scratch on his face, and we just assume that Tyler has pretty much raped Ghost, or like at the least hurt her.
Which is so horrible. Like, that was so off-putting.
Yeah.
And such a weird thing to, like, a young 12-year-old girl is like framing an older man.
Yes, that's
for, like,
the
sexual
part.
abuse is just so like overdone and not realistic in my opinion.
Yeah. It's
at this point Tyler's called Alice. So Alice, the clinic director, is driving to the house, isn't she?
Yeah, she is. She is.
So while all this is happening, Alice is pulling up in the driveway.
And she doesn't see anything happen, by the way, which is the funniest part. So Bridget assumes, like the rest of us, that Tyler has raped Ghost, which he hasn't. We find out that he hasn't later. And to me, that doesn't make sense with her bruises, because if he did not rape her, he at least hit her, right?
She might have hit herself, but I have no idea.
You cannot
Yeah,
cause
she's
yourself.
slamming herself across the floor and bumping into the. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, okay. I'm like, yeah, that doesn't make sense.
It has to be like makeup or marker or something. She's got a creative mind, so I'm assuming like in a hurry, she like paints herself, does something to portray that she's been abused by Tyler while Bridget was in the other room, because obviously Bridget, there's no way she can know what actually happened. So all she needs is like a visual to convince her.
Right. And I feel like anyone in that situation would be like, oh my God, this poor little girl is shaking.
Yeah, that's like,
while Tyler looks fine.
Yeah. And the scratch on the face, it just made it more,
yeah. Right. But either way, I want to comment that either way, they did insinuate that they had a relationship, which in itself is disgusting. And Tyler is still a horrible character. But we do realize that Ghost is absolutely lying, which is not, it's not a good picture to make this child the evil one, because that's not what happens in real life, right? Like, kids do get sexually assaulted and raped and all of that. And we can't, I don't know. I feel like it's a weird thing.
I just didn't understand her point of doing it. There's no real reason to get
rid of Tyler
unless you just have some sort of like vengeance thing.
So that's like my perspective, is that Ghost is jealous of Tyler and Bridget's like thing they have going on in the room. So then Bridget seeing Ghost like that convinces her to lock Tyler outside. And she knows that the new wolf in town is like stalking around outside. So Bridget's solution is, now I'm angry, I'm just gonna push him outside and like feed him to this werewolf. So that also falls on Ghost for lying.
Yeah, and this part is very strange to me because we see that Ghost is watching, and then she just goes, "Where's Tyler?" Even though she watched him get eaten. But I think that's also her playing on her like
naivety.
Right, not guilty. So then Alice shows up to the house and finds them, and she's kind of trying to help, trying to get them back to the actual hospital/clinic. And this is the part where we find that Ghost was the one who killed her grandma, because Bridget finds this sign that says, I don't remember exactly what it says, but it's something about like, please don't smoke or I'm gonna croak, something like that. And Bridget is like extremely upset. She's like, you absolutely lied. And she lied about getting raped by Tyler as well. And then the freaking wolf just like slams his way into the house. He's trying to kill, what's her name? Ghost. He attempts to multiple times, which I don't know how he can't rip through the plastic. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? The part where she's like in the attic
There's
and she's like the only thing between both of them is plastic and he can't rip through it. He like tries to bite it multiple times and cannot rip through it. It's ridiculous.
She's like suspended from the ceiling
Mhm.
in this plastic divider.
Which
Yeah.
why? How?
I think it's just too like stupid wolf. He's short, like it's just too far above his head, and he
Stupid
can't he can't reach her. I'm
Yeah.
assuming.
And Alice is trying to help her. And then Bridget stabs the wolf in an altercation, and that's where he's like, absolutely not. Like he turns from I want to mate with you to I'm going to kill you. So she stabs him again, and we assume that he's just dead, but he's not. So then he drags her to the like basement thing, latch thing. They have like a whole weird basement situation going on, and they had put
It's
up
like
like
an
a trap.
apocalypse den. It's
Yeah,
like a
very
little hidden
weird.
room.
Yeah, and they had a whole like trap set up, so he ends up dying.
Yeah.
And Ghost ends up killing Alice, who is trying to save. Oh my God, I'm like losing names now.
She's trying to save
Bridget.
Bridget?
Bridget. Yeah,
Yes.
correct, yeah.
Alice hears something still in that like basement alive. So she's trying to see if she can get Bridget to come up.
And Ghost is stalking her with a hammer behind her back. And the
Yeah.
second Alice turns around, the hammer meets Alice's forehead because somehow this
just like it
12-year-old
just
girl again
just
just
one
back
bonk.
at it.
Yeah,
Just
she's
one bonk on
strong.
the head and she
Yeah,
like
one
falls
bonk.
back.
Bonk, and then she's dead. And then Bridget is
Her
like
transformation
crawling.
is happening at this point. I'm assuming that
But she was I'll let me just add one more thing and I'll let you remember what you're gonna say. Bridget looked completely different than her sister did in the first movie when she was
I
transforming.
know.
Yeah.
Like Bridget
It was so
looked like
unsettling.
an old woman or like a witch or something instead of a werewolf. Like there was no hair really.
Yeah, the
While
prosthetics were weird in
Ginger
this
had like the
movie.
ears. Well, Bridget had the ears, but Ginger had the ears, the hair, the teeth, everything was coming
The
out more.
tail.
And now here she just looks like an old hag. Like
She looks
Maybe
very
it,
weird.
it was like I feel like I'm a little too speculative and I know it's like a movie universe, but like maybe it was the whole Wolfsbane thing she was doing that sort of I mean, she did so much of that stuff that I'm assuming it altered like her transformation in some way because it's essentially like poison.
I think you're giving so much credit to this director.
I am giving it way too much thought, but
Yeah.
I just like
I
movies
love
that
that,
make
though.
sense, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm like trying to make everything make sense and I'm getting tired.
So she is transforming and she's still alive down there and she's trying to crawl up, which makes
Yeah, she's injured now.
Kind
So
of.
she's trying to crawl out of the basement.
yeah.
And at this point, she begs Ghost to kill her because, like Ginger, she doesn't want to like fully transform. And Ghost just lets the door fall right on her head and latches it shut.
Insane. I hated that. I thought this ending was so stupid. Like, I get that she's a crazy girl, but wasn't the whole point that she loved Bridget and wanted to be her BFF?
I guess the second that she saw that falter, like
Yeah,
their
her look.
relationship falter,
Yeah.
it was over. It was sort of like a you're dead to me. You
But it
weren't my
seemed-
ride or die type of thing.
Doesn't it seem like she kind of Bridget forgave Ghost at the end a little bit? Or am I just misinterpreting it when she reached for her hand? I know she like pulled her hand back a little bit, but like she was closing the hatch, but Bridget made no attempt at like getting out or doing anything.
She was weak.
She was probably, yeah, I guess so.
She was too weak to do anything. And also it's like it was a point of weakness as well, that she just wanted somebody to kill her to put her out of her misery. And as soon as they said no, she's like, okay, I guess. But then after this happens, we get like a flash forward of Ghost and her grandma is coming home just out of nowhere. I don't know how. I don't know if she got out of her casket.
Maybe
Not her
just
casket.
maybe just letting her out for a couple of days or hours.
Yeah, but it's weird because her grandma doesn't have any other family. Like you would think that they wouldn't trust somebody, a patient with a child, right? Like that's insane to me. She can't do things alone. You're not going to trust her You're not going to put this child to be her like main caretaker. Like that's insane, right?
I mean, I guess.
Am I wrong? Yeah, and they
Including
Now
a
there's the
wolf?
mess after all the destruction that happened. Yeah.
will they not realize that there is something in the basement like pounding?
We know the hospital wasn't a great hospital, so
True.
maybe they were just like, go home, you'll be okay.
I guess, but they just lost their headmaster, Alice. Like things are just not adding
I
up.
know.
Yeah, I would not recommend this movie to anyone. I think it's not one of those movies where you're like, it's so bad it's funny. It's more like it's so bad I can't take this anymore.
Yeah.
You're like, you want to see the picture of who wrote this. You're like,
Yeah.
who is responsible for this?
You just like kind of can't wait for it to be over. You're just
Oh
sitting
my
there
God.
like you not gonna lie. I had good expectations, but halfway through it, as you said, Joanna, it just I'm like, I know I have to watch this for the podcast, but
Hmm.
I'm like barely holding on here. Like
Yeah.
there's only one thing keeping me going here.
Yeah. The fact that like I didn't, yeah, it's just also like I'm halfway through. You know what I mean? Like I need to finish it. But
Might as well.
it was like terrible. I would not recommend this to anyone. I
Um,
don't think there's an audience for this movie.
The most upsetting part for me is where they try and wrap everything up at the end,
Yeah.
where now Ghost has Bridget locked in her basement, and you know that Bridget is obviously like probably fully transformed by
Yeah.
now. She's gone so long without the wolfsbane that she's like become a wolf, and she's just living in this basement.
Hmm.
And Ghost goes and sits down at her desk with all these comic book scraps because she's some comic book fantasy nerd.
Queen.
And she starts making her own comic book where she's a warrior,
Mhm.
and now she has a werewolf pet,
Yeah.
which is Bridget. She says that Bridget's getting stronger and she's just waiting to be unleashed on all of her enemies, which I guess is where the unleashed part comes in to tie it
Mhm.
back to where we were questioning that in the beginning. It's titled Unleashed because now a 12-year-old girl has her as her pet.
Which she doesn't. Like, let's be very honest. The second
Well, there's
she
a
gets
third
out,
movie.
no, I'm not watching. I think this ruined the franchise for me. Like I thought the first movie was so fun and innovative, and the second movie was just not it. Not even visually. I think the first movie barely showed the wolf, which was genius because at the time they had nothing to go. They had nothing realistic enough to show a wolf. And this movie they did the opposite. Like there's literally a part, I think it's one of the parts where she stabs the wolf and he just plops down like a puppet, and it's ridiculous. I don't know if it's somebody in a costume or a literal puppet.
I think it's a puppet.
It is a puppet.
So bad. Like the movements are ridiculous. The camera that they tried to do like shaky camera angles, it was just bad.
Took it in such a weird direction.
They
Like,
definitely did.
I don't know. And now I'm a little more confused on it being a hospital. Why are there so many like substance abuse young girls in this hospital that's also treating burn victims? Like it's
It's so weird.
It just let anybody run around. It was really
Yeah.
not well run at all.
They had Ghost, a child who is not even attending she's not in the program. She's just somebody's family member. They had her giving food to the girls. Like, why is she working? Why is she working in this hospital? I don't know.
That bread.
They're not paying her.
No, but they're paying Alice. Remember, they're paying Alice to have Ghost on the premises. Apparently, that was
Yeah.
also a little part that they tied in, which I was like,
Really
okay.
random. Really
Thanks.
weird. But that still doesn't mean they can like have her work. This is child labor. But okay. It was it's an interesting movie. Definitely one I'm going to forget, hopefully. But yeah, I think that's all I have to say about this.
That's the movie, yeah.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. We did flesh it out, but there's really is like nothing satisfactory about the movie at all.
Yeah.
Like not any
Which,
redeeming factors.
It's so strange that this movie got a similar rating to
Yeah,
the first
very
one.
high rating.
That's my takeaway. It's like you really thought that the first one was this bad that you're gonna give them the same score.
Yeah, I don't think they're comparable at all, actually. I don't think they should be in the same category at all. This movie was extremely boring. Like, I think even the parts that we made seem interesting or sound interesting, they're not. Like, watch the movie. They're literally not interesting. Like, you're gonna watch half of this and you're gonna be like, this is so bad. I think we made the movie sound better than what it actually is.
Yes, because we're very passionate about how bad it is.
Yeah, exactly.
It's almost
Uh,
like one of those things where it's like so bad you want someone to watch it also so that they agree with you. So you
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
like see what I was saying. Like,
Do you see how bad this is?
Yeah.
But like
Just like
definitely don't. Like definitely do not watch this for that.
I do want to know what, maybe I'll just read the summaries of the next, because there's 2 films after this one.
Yeah, I don't know how.
So I'll just be reading the summaries of those films because this one was very poorly done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to watch any of the, especially if, I'm sorry, I don't want to dog on this director, but especially if they're directed by the same man, I'm so sorry. The editing is off, the whole movie is off. It's just weirdly paced, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and
Thank you guys for having me on the show.
of course. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Megan, thank you so much for joining us,
Thank you
and
so
we'll
much
see
for
you
having
guys
me.
on the next episode.
Oh, and one
And
more
one more
thing
thing
before
before
you
you
die.
die.